Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're setting the stage for an absolute deep dive into the wildly complex, multi-threaded plot of Steven Spielberg's monumental 2026 sci-fi epic Disclosure Day. Seriously, if you love dissecting how masterfully crafted narratives take entirely separate threads and weave them into one massive, mind-blowing collision, well, you are in the exact right place. There is a ton to unpack in this cinematic universe, so let's just get right into the thick of it. So, what happens when the world's greatest secrets are suddenly broadcast to a planet that is literally teetering on the brink of war? Okay, let's dive into this, because this isn't just your standard story about aliens arriving in spaceships. Spielberg drops us directly into a high-stakes, deeply tense 2026 setting, where humanity is already on a knife's edge, and then he throws in the ultimate wild card. Section 1. On the brink of war, the setting of Disclosure Day. To really understand the plot, we have to grasp the powder keg of a world these characters are living in. The globe is right on the edge of World War III, and operating quietly amidst all this global anxiety is a secretive arm of the U.S. government known as the Wardex Corporation. They're basically the shadowy puppet masters of this whole story, guarding humanity's most explosive truths. Now, the lore of human-alien contact in this universe traces back through modern history, kicking off in 1947 with the infamous Roswell incident. From there, we see decades, we're talking nearly 80 years here, of systemic government cover-ups regarding extraterrestrial contact. All of these secrets just sit locked away until 2026. That's when our first protagonist, a highly skilled cybersecurity specialist named Daniel Kellner, pulls off this massive data heist. He actually manages to steal a piece of alien technology, along with the very files detailing this hidden history, right out from under Wardex's nose. Section 2. The whistleblower on the run, Daniel Kellner's cyber heist. By stealing this data, Daniel instantly becomes the single most wanted man on the planet, heavily targeted by federal authorities and the ruthless machinery of Wardex. He's immediately branded a foreign spy by Wardex CEO Noah Scanlon, obviously to completely discredit him. Forced off the grid, Daniel goes into hiding at a convent. He's actually sheltered there by his girlfriend, Jane Blankenship, who, get this, happens to be a former nun. So, the crucial point here is Daniel isn't just trying to survive. His ultimate plan is to expose this massive Wardex conspiracy and make all that stolen evidence public to the entire world. Section 3. A sudden psychic awakening. Margaret Fairchild's viral broadcast. While Daniel fights this crazy cyber war from the shadows, we shift our narrative entirely over to Kansas City. Here, we meet our second protagonist, a television meteorologist named Margaret Fairchild. Now, her story doesn't begin with a high-tech heist. Instead, it starts with something incredibly simple. She's getting ready for work when a cardinal, just a regular bird, flies into her home, briefly observes her, and flies away. But this seemingly innocent encounter triggers a sudden, profound psychic awakening. David Koepp's screenplay brilliantly contrasts our dual protagonists here. On one side, you've got Daniel Kellner, who represents a very grounded technological approach, right? Cyber espionage and stolen government data. On the other side, you have Margaret Fairfield, representing a totally supernatural awakening. She's suddenly dealing with intuitive telepathy, where she can read thoughts, and she's unconsciously speaking extraterrestrial languages she's never even learned. It's like a giant puzzle. The plot masterfully uses these mirror opposite approaches to just ramp up the suspense. And this brings us to Margaret's major inciting incident. During a totally routine live weather broadcast, her powers completely take over. She unexpectedly begins speaking in this unknown alien language right on the air. Naturally, the footage goes completely viral. And of course, this instantly draws the attention of Wardex, who immediately identify the language as extraterrestrial. Suddenly, Margaret is hospitalized, nearly captured by Scanlon's agents, and just like Daniel, she is forced to go on the run and hide. Section 4. Two paths finally converge. The collision of cyber and supernatural. This is where the story's pacing kicks into an entirely different gear, as these two seemingly unrelated storylines beautifully crash right into one another. The stakes for both characters have literally never been higher. See, Noah Scanlon isn't playing by conventional rules. He utilizes a machine that grants him telepathic capabilities, forming a psychic bond with Jane to track them down at a hotel where Daniel is prepping his big broadcast. In the ensuing chaos, Jane manages to escape with the stolen files, but Daniel is captured by Wardex and dragged away to a black site. But let's move to and see how this builds, because Margaret's newly developed abilities are about to become the absolute key to his rescue. Margaret receives these telepathic visions that lead her directly to the black site where Daniel is being held.
And during their daring escape, Margaret actually learns to use her abilities offensively. She starts mentally influencing and compelling the Word-X agents pursuing them. In a seriously pulse-pounding climax to the chase, one of Scanlan's men is compelled to intentionally ram their car into the side of a passing train. Daniel pulls Margaret out just in the nick of time, they climb onto the train, and finally, our dual protagonists are united and safe.
Section 5. The Ultimate Disclosure Day. Broadcasting the Truth. Following that insane train escape, Daniel and Margaret find refuge with a group of former Ward-X employees turned whistleblowers who were led by a guy named Hugo Wakefield. Hugo shelters them in a warehouse that actually contains a full reconstruction of Margaret's childhood home. Here, she recovers suppressed memories. And the terrifying truth, both she and Daniel were actually abducted by extraterrestrials as kids. Those experiments are what gave them their powers. Even wilder, they realize the unusual animals they've seen throughout their lives, like that cardinal, are actually extraterrestrials assuming harmless forms just to observe humanity. Mind-blowing, right? So, armed with this world-shattering knowledge and the stolen files, they execute their ultimate plan. Disclosure Day is a global public television broadcast orchestrated by Daniel and Margaret to reveal historical evidence of alien encounters to a completely stunned world. They break into Margaret's old television studio to transmit the truth globally. And as they do, the whistleblowers reveal they've actually been sheltering one of the extraterrestrials, who privately communicates a final message to Daniel, who then relays it to Margaret. And with the entire world watching, Margaret looks directly into the camera, prepares to deliver the extraterrestrial's message, and simply says, "Listen." It's an incredibly powerful, cryptic ending that honestly leaves the audience completely breathless. Section 6. Spielberg's sci-fi spectacle, critical reception and legacy. Let's step back for a second and look at the real-world footprint of Spielberg's film to really understand its impact. $115 million. That was the massive budget required to bring David Koepp's intricate screenplay and Steven Spielberg's visionary, grand-scale spectacle to life. And they shot it on 35mm film with absolutely incredible visual effects to make those thrilling set pieces possible. But how did critics actually react to this ambitious tone? Well, The Hollywood Reporter praised it highly as spellbinding and essential. Variety enjoyed it as a diverting ride, but felt it kind of lacked the awe of Spielberg's past works, like Close Encounters. Meanwhile, The Telegraph took a more negative stance, calling the plot a bungled mix of solemn and silly. And this brilliantly illustrates just how deeply divided critics can be when a director takes such a massive genre-blending swing. But despite that divide, the overall reception remained remarkably strong, securing a solid 82% on Rotten Tomatoes. The praise centered heavily on a few undeniable elements: Spielberg's kinetic direction, an absolutely breathtaking, magnetic performance by Emily Blunt as Margaret, and of course, the legendary composer John Williams, who provided a subtle, underlying score meant to give the film a slight nudge forward rather than completely leading it. I want to end our explainer today with a final, provocative thought. Does Disclosure Day reignite our deepest wonder about what lies beyond? Or does it simply mirror our modern fears of conspiracy? It's a film that asks some really profound questions while delivering a relentless cyber thriller ride. Thank you so much for joining me as we unraveled this incredible plot, and I really hope this leaves you wanting to explore Spielberg's cinematic universe even further.